Then I would like to introduce our second speaker in this session now. It's Mr. Dominique Offerijns, who is already ready. Come on the stage, please. He reached his bachelor degrees at the Technical University of Applied Sciences in Regensburg in 2018. And he then continued his studies at the Technical University of Munich, focusing on structural engineering, and he graduated with a master's degree in 2021. And then since July of that year, he has been working at the University of the Bundeswehr in Munich under the supervision of our colleague, Professor Gerald Siebert. And his research now focuses on structural adhesives for glass to steel connections, with special attention to the material behavior after aging and under high temperatures. So we are looking forward to your story. The floor is yours.
Thanks. Yeah. Hello, everybody. I'm very happy to be here and to have the opportunity to give my presentation, which has the title Evaluation of the Suitability of UV Curing Acrylate Adhesives in Structural Glass Applications by DMTA. As you can infer from the title, my presentation will mainly deal with the dynamic mechanical thermal analysis, but there are a few other related topics that I would like to talk about. So here's my agenda for today. At first, I want to give you a really short introduction to the general research project which I am part of, which is called RISC-Twin. We then will start with the actual topic by looking at the state-of-the-art of adhesive joints in structural glass applications. And after that, we will start with our materials and the experimental investigations. And then I would like to finish with an outlook of what we are doing at the moment and what is planned for the future, since we're not done yet. So the general research project, RISC-Twin, deals with hybrid digital twins for critical technical infrastructure. Probably many or all of you already have heard of digital twins in whatever context. But in fact, there is no single definition of a hybrid digital twin. So here's our definition. At first, the hybrid digital twin consists of the virtual twin and the digital twin. And here may already be misunderstandings, since we often talk only about the digital twin and not the hybrid digital twin. But the hybrid digital twin actually consists of the virtual twin, which is physics-based modeling and simulation, usually using finite element analysis, and the digital twin, which is database monitoring and predictions using sensors. In total, we are 15 researchers in the fields of civil engineering, computer-based simulations, informatics, human sciences, and social sciences. And in the end, we want to be able to evaluate and quantify the consequences of unexpected or rare situations and identify the right reactions. And as I said, not only in the engineering area, but also from an economic, social, and political point of view. And we therefore need detailed information about the actual situation of the substructure after extreme events. And so to speak, as a positive side effect, we obtain optimized maintenance during service life. Now you may be wondering what UV curing acrylate adhesives have to do with the whole matter. But you probably will agree that glass is still used comparatively conservatively in building construction. And this is also related to the kind of connection to the substructure. And so if we want to connect the glass to the substructure by adhesives, we can usually only refer to the ETEC 002. So I will give a short introduction, since I don't know your expertise in this area, so to get us all on the same level. There are some basic restrictions and specifications of the ETEC 002, which states that you can apply the guideline only to rectangular glass panes, and the bond has to be in the form of a linear bead. Next, adhesion on 3 surfaces is not allowed, because that would cause volumetric stresses and therefore be a cavitation-sensitive joint. And additionally, in Germany, and I think in a few other countries, a mechanical self-weight support is necessary. So type 3 and type 4 are not allowed. Regarding the design, the ETEC 002 provides a allowable stress design method where you insert your loads with the W in the left-hand formula and the G in the right-hand formula, and then get directly your dimensions of the silicon bond. And after that, you have to divide your allowable stresses by a global safety factor of 6, or if you do a more precise numerical computation, you can reduce this factor to 4. Now, of course, research has been done in recent years around that topic. For example, approaches with a semi-probabilistic safety concept or a verification via finite element method, which I would like to introduce here. For this, we need, of course, experimental data, which we get from uniaxial tension tests, biaxial tension tests, or simple shear tests. And this volumetric tension test becomes necessary if you have a adhesion on 3 surfaces. And after these tests, we need to select a suitable material model and determine the material parameters. For silicone, this is usually done by hyperelastic material models such as NeoHook or Monirivlin or stuff like that. And now, then you probably know that we need a test to calibrate the material model and another one to validate the material model, which is done by the modified ETEC H specimen. Why modified? Because we need to test our actual dimensions of the silicon bond, which we want to apply in the building or whatever. And after the tension tests, we have to recalculate it. And then we are able to calculate the global model with our actual occurring loads. And here it is very important that we use the same fixed mesh densities, because these models usually show a mesh dependency, and we want to exclude the influences from this. And then we are already able to compare the maximum occurring strains from the global model of point number 5 and compare them to the allowable stresses and strains from point number 4, which already contain the global safety factors. So you see, this approach still uses global safety factors. And as I said, there are a few other approaches that has been investigated. But I don't want to go any further into detail here, because what is important for us, this is an approach where we can tie up with other adhesives. So we need material tests, which of course should be as easy as possible. And we need specific material models, and then we can do our calculations using FEM. And why do we consider UV curing acrylated adhesives as promising? At first, of course, they have a transparent appearance, which is to some extent a basic requirement for us in glass construction. And then they combine the advantages of a easy handling and a fast curing. So we don't need any special mixing equipment, we don't need high temperatures or pressure, and we are not limited in pot life. So we can cure them quite easy and really fast. And additionally, they allow a wide range of strengths and stiffnesses to be adjusted. To demonstrate this, we can have a look at some uniaxial tension tests which we performed. And as we can see, we can get quite long elongations using acrylate adhesives. And here the adhesive is of course not transparent, because we sprayed it with a speckle pattern for the digital image correlation, which we use to measure the strains. This adhesive we just saw here is the red one in this picture. And as you can see, the maximum strains go nearly up to about 100%. The black line below represents a structural silicone, and here the elongation is even larger, but as you can see, at a significantly lower level in strength. And the third one, which I called acrylate 1, which I don't know if you can see, but it's the blue one right next to the y-axis. And so the difference between the blue one and the red one is the wide range of strengths and stiffnesses, which I was talking about. Let's have now a closer look to these tests, where again, acrylate 1 is the very stiff one, and acrylate 2 is the red one, which was in the middle. And we tested them in tension mode under different strain rate to consider their time dependency. And as you can see, with the very stiff one, the curves almost are exactly above each other, so there's no time dependency. in contrast to acrylate 2, where we have a significant difference between the two curves, so the adhesive reacts much stiffer under faster deformation. And if we now compare the maximum stresses, acrylate 1 is nearly about 10 times higher than acrylate 2, but acrylate 2 still is about twice as high as the structural silicone. And as we can see, the material behavior of the acrylate 2 is quite complex and some kind of viscoelastic. And to further investigate this, we performed dynamic mechanical analysis on this. What do we actually do in this test? We apply a harmonic strain controlled excitation on the bulk material at different temperatures. So in our tests, we started at 80 degrees Celsius and tested the adhesive in a logarithmically scaled distribution from 0.5 hertz to 50 hertz in frequency, and repeated that every 5 Kelvin until we reached minus 20 degrees Celsius. And as a result, we obtained a time and temperature-dependent material behavior, resulting in the so-called Brownian series for our viscoelastic material model. So to illustrate this, we can see in the bottom picture on the right-hand side the strain excitation plotted blue. And for a viscoelastic material, as we have here, there is a phase lag between the excitation and the stress response of the material, which we call the phase angle delta. And with this phase angle delta, we can span a triangle in the complex plane in the upper picture with the so-called storage modulus and loss modulus, where the storage modulus represents the elastic part of the material behavior and the loss modulus represents the material damping behavior. And together they are combined in the complex modulus. Regarding the material model, this is usually referred to the generalized Maxwell model, which consists of a single spring to represent the elastic part and a number of Maxwell elements containing damper elements to represent the viscous part. Now, how do these measurements results actually look like? You can see here the storage modulus and the loss modulus plotted over the temperature. And as I said, going from minus 20 degrees Celsius to 80 degrees Celsius. And as we can see, both acrylate adhesives exhibit much higher values for lower temperatures, but the silicone shows a much more constant behavior over the whole temperature range. And for lower temperatures, it even outperforms the acrylate 2. Another interesting plot is to plot the results over frequency. So here now, every line represents a specific temperature, whereas in the picture before, every line represented a frequency. And again, we can see here the constant behavior of the silicone. And now you can see that I actually lied to you, because for acrylate 1, I said we have no strain rate dependence. But this is actually valid only for lower temperatures up to 20 or 30 degrees Celsius. And the lowest blue line is the line for 80 degrees Celsius, and here we actually have a difference between 0.5 hertz and 50 hertz. With these curves now, we can make use of the so-called time-temperature superposition principle, which states that the long-time relaxation at lower temperatures is equivalent to the short-time relaxation at higher temperatures, which allows us to build a so-called master curve and get the results over a much wider frequency scale. You can imagine this by just shifting the curves to the next curve for a chosen reference temperature, which we chose to be 20 degrees Celsius. So all lines that are above the line of 20 degrees Celsius are the temperatures that are lower than 20 degrees Celsius and therefore are stiffer. And now we shift them to the right until it lies exactly above the next curve. And we repeat this until we get one single curve. And the shift factor is usually got from either the Williams-Lendl-Ferry equation for temperatures above the glass transition temperature or the entropy elastic region, or the Arrhenius equation, which is used for the energy elastic region. So now applying this to our both adhesives, we get the following curves, acrylate 1 on the left-hand side and acrylate 2 on the right-hand side. And to these curves, we now can fit our Brownian series. And as I said, we need a specific number of Maxwell elements. So if we tried to fit the curve with a number of 5 elements, since the single elements have only a specific area of influence, the curve is not fitted very well. But if you use a number of 13 elements for Acrylate 1, the depiction is quite well. Same thing for the second adhesive. Again, 5 elements, not sufficient, but here with 12 elements, the depiction is again very good. Now, regarding the material modeling in finite element software, for our state of research for now, we model the Acrylate 1 with a linear elastic material model because of the results of the uniaxial tension tests. And Acrylate 2 shows a clearly viscoelastic material behavior. And it is important to mention that it shows no plastic deformation after unloading. So a viscoelastic material model is the right choice. And therefore, I would like to recommend you warmly the presentation of my colleague, Mr. Alexander Pauli, tomorrow at 11 a.m. at this stage, who will show you the numerical modeling of UV curing acrylate adhesives. Now, to close my presentation, I will have a short outlook. So we could actually not figure out any general limitation of UV curing acrylate adhesives, but there are, of course, some challenges which we need to face. At first, a more constant behavior over the whole temperature range would be desirable, and we haven't done any aging tests on the materials so far. So especially, we need this to investigate in glass to steel connections, because then adhesive failure might occur, which we don't have, of course, in material tests on the bulk material. And last but not least, the material behavior in large-scale constructions, so in really facade applications, need to be investigated. These material behavior after aging tests may be done on stuff like point fixings or even hybrid point fixing, as we can see in the picture on the right-hand side. So in this point fixing, we want to apply adhesives with 2 different stiffnesses to obtain a redundant behavior. So the adhesive in the center of the point fixing should be a very stiff one, which is actually responsible for the load transfer. And the one in the circular ring around the other adhesive should be softer to be able to carry some sulfate or stuff like that in case that the stiff adhesive fails to whatever reason that is not expected. And with that, why not go for other connections like linear bondings, for example, the type 3 and type 4 of the ETEC 002. And now to close the arc to the beginning of my presentation, we hope to gain further arguments regarding approval with the redundant point fixing on the one hand and with the digital twin on the other hand. And therefore, here are my references, and then I would like to thank you for your attention and be happy to answer your question.